Hey, what's going on YouTube? Kendrick Meadows again. There were some questions about the modifications that I've done to my C9 High Point. Now, I'm not going to say this is one of the best guns ever, but I've really enjoyed owning it and shooting it. I've apparently lucked out. I've never had any problems with it, but I've also done some things that have made it a more reliable firearm. And that's the intent of this video, to show you what I've done. So we'll start off by showing disassembly of this firearm. If you look, where the pen used to be, I've replaced that with a screw. So now when it comes to disassembly, I don't have to go get a hammer and a vise and slowly, carefully tap it out. I just put the screwdriver in, and I can back it out. Now, this is still not as good as something like any other firearm, where you can simply field strip it. You still have to have a tool. So that is still a gripe. But I went ahead and tapped it through so that the screw fits nicely inside of the hole that used to hold a pen that you'd have to hammer out. That was always a pain in the ass. Okay, so once you get that out, you lift it and everything falls out. That was the doll head and the firing spring that just came out on me. So I'll pick those up. Alright, one of the questions I had was, how do you lighten the trigger pull? Well, you can't really lighten the trigger pull. It's the trigger itself is run by a spring that's internal. You could go inside and change the spring, stretch it a little, or even see if you can trim it. I haven't taken it apart to do that. What I've done is closer to what you do with a Beretta or a Taurus 92 series, where you go into the handle and you remove the hammer spring. This is the spring that goes on the firing pin assembly right here. And the High Point cocks this mechanism and holds it with the trigger latch, which I will show you right there. So if you relieve the tension that the firing pin sets under, you in turn relieve the amount of tension that's on the spring. I only took about 2 turns, 3 turns off. I don't have the equipment to measure, but it is a lighter trigger pull. It still fires just fine. You saw in the video of Andrea shooting this gun. The gun fires without a problem. It works like a dream, and you know, you don't have to worry about a couple turns off the spring not being enough to ignite the primer on a 9mm charge. Okay, some of the other things I've done. This is called the doll head by some people. I've taken mine and I've polished mine up very nicely. It's not black anymore. It's silver and it's shiny. The intent of doing this, I also polished this inside tube that the doll head runs down. Since the High Point doesn't have traditional rails, again like a Beretta or a Glock or a Taurus, it runs along the doll head mechanism. So if you want to reduce friction, that's one way you can reduce friction. You go in and you polish the entire tube that the doll head runs down. The intent is, again, you reduce the amount of friction, you reduce the amount of resistance that the firearm has, and you smooth up the way the firearm reacts. I've also gone ahead and notched this area. That was for the screw. It's clearance for the screw. And I've also polished every mating surface that has contact with any of the composites. That, again, reducing resistance, reducing friction. The less friction you have, the easier the gun is going to cycle the rounds. And on that note, I polished the ramp right here. It's kind of dirty. I haven't cleaned it since we shot 2 days ago, or that was yesterday. I haven't cleaned it since yesterday when I shot, but you can see it there. The ramp has been polished up very, very nicely. It's smooth as glass now, and that allows it to chamber around without any issues at all. Now, next, we'll talk about the magazines. Alright, I got the magazines here. Let's see if we can make this evident. with some focus. Maybe not. Okay, we'll put them back here, and I'll try to talk you through the changes that I made to the magazines. On the left, you have the modified high point magazine. On the right, you have a stock high point magazine. Hopefully, if I tip it forward, you can see this hook here on each side. That's there to hold a round as it goes in, and it keeps it in the magazine nice and snug. Well, I thought it did too good a job. It also makes loading the magazine a pain in the rear. The round has to come up over that hook almost. So when you're loading, you're pressing down and then you're maneuvering it around those two little catches just to make it go in. It's kind of ridiculous. So what I've done on this magazine and my others, I've straightened out these hooks at the front, not the rear, not these pieces. These two hooks up here on the front, I've straightened them out. They're not completely straight, but they are closer to vertical. Now what that allows is the round to go straight down, which is something you can't do with a factory mag. And that makes it real easy to put it in. It also makes it real easy to come out. And again, the intent of all the modifications I've done for this gun were to make it so it doesn't jam and so it feeds nice and smoothly. So to help it feed smoothly, I went through and I changed these mags so that the rounds will pop straight out without an issue. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks a lot, and enjoy. Also, I've gone through, and inside the magazine well, you might not be able to see it, the magazine catch. I just did a very light brush up on that. It had some burrs and some rough edges. So I cleaned it up just a little so that pressing the button ever so slightly is enough to allow a magazine, and even an empty magazine, to just fall right out. You can just barely see it in there, that little shiny part that comes bumping up. There you go. Now you can see it. That shiny part is the part that I cleaned up just a tad. I didn't want to take too much off. You take too much off and the firearm won't accept a magazine anymore. It'll just fall out every time. So you just clean it up a small amount so that it'll hold the magazine without a problem. You don't want it so it won't hold a mag, but you don't need it, so you have to really force down on the gun to make it release. The modification that I have done to the magazine does not affect the last round bolt hold open. Again, this is the modified mag into the gun, and when it comes back, the bolt stays open. So it's not like doing this mod is going to make it so you lose your last round bolt hold open.